Hey everybody, welcome back to The Drop. You made it again. We're so glad that you're here. I'm Pastor Karina here with you, and I have my awesome husband here, Sergio. Say what's up.
What up?
And we're excited to be back with you guys this week, just dropping truth, bringing life. We've been talking about our New Year's resolutions. If you didn't catch last week's episode, that's what we were chatting about and sharing. And so today we just wanted to kind of share with you guys and chat a little bit about what are some practical ways that you can try to keep those and stay focused on those, because it's great to set them, right? But it means nothing if you don't make a plan to try to keep them and reach them. So that's kind of what we wanted to talk about today. So how are you doing with some of your goals / New Year's resolutions so far? It's what is it, January 18th? We're like literally
Like 3 weeks,
more than
almost 3
halfway
weeks
through. How are you doing with them?
I'm doing good. So far, so good.
What does that mean? Good.
Good. That means I'm still on track. I haven't
Okay.
missed one yet.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I can attest to that. Okay, that's great. I am doing good too. I would say that I'm probably struggling a little bit more than you because some of my goals, you've already been kind of like doing them for a while. So not that it's a competition, because it's not. It's totally not. But some of my goals are very new for me,
Yeah.
like trying to wake up early and
How has that been?
waking up early has been good. There's been definitely a few days that I haven't done it because, I just like didn't sleep well or whatever. And that's one of the things I wanted to kind of bring up too, is like, for me, if I'm like miss a day on one of my goals, it's really easy to feel super defeated. How do you feel if you do like miss one day of something that you were trying to do?
I think it's super easy to like you said, feel defeated and then just let that completely derail you.
Yeah, like
And
just say flop.
I'm done. I didn't make it. It's over. Back to
I
the
failed.
old way.
It's January 18th and I failed.
But I think in the grand scheme of an entire year, if you take a second to get perspective and think like, okay, this is a new thing that I'm doing, so I may not be perfect.
Yeah.
And if I miss a day or I have an off day, but I still keep moving forward, I'm better. I'm in a better place than I was last year, or I'm making progress still.
100%.
When you stack 2, 3, 4, 5 missed days on top of each other, that's when you fall completely off the rails. So I think you just have to see it for what it is and hopefully get back on the horse and keep going.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that that's really, really something that I am also trying to digest as I go along. Like, okay, if I miss a day on one of the things I'm trying to set out to do a certain amount of days or whatever, to like not beat myself up over it, and to not say like, golly, man, I failed, like I'm awful at this, or I can't even do this, it's super easy to just like, because when you set a goal, like obviously you set it because you want to keep it, you don't set it just to be like, oh, I set this cool goal, at least I hope that's not why you set a goal. Like the other day, I went to, I had set a goal. I have a goal to work out 30 minutes Monday through Thursday is my set goal. So it was Friday and I was like, ooh, it was Thursday and I was like, okay, I'm going to do yoga on Thursdays because I love yoga. So of course at our gym, the only because it's the rec center, the only like legit yoga class. I tried one and it was like Fab Fit yoga and it was so weird. It was like it was not yoga. I was like, what's happening? Why are we doing this? But anyways, so the real yoga class is at 5:00 in the morning.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, but I love yoga. So I'm like, okay.
I remember that day. Your alarm went off at 4:30 and I thought you made a mistake and set it for like the wrong hour. I was like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, so I was like, I'm going to do it. So I set the alarm, I get up, I have all my stuff set out, and I get to the gym and I'm like moseying up the stairs, right? And I go into the classroom and there's like one person in there, and I showed up like right at 5 because I did not want to be like the first person there because that's weird, but I didn't want to be late because I didn't want to get a bad spot, right? You got to see the instructor. So I go, and there's like one lady there, and I'm like, is she the instructor? And it's literally just me and her. And I was like, weird, but maybe cool. I don't know. So I asked her, I was like, hey, is there a yoga class in here? And she was like, oh yeah, but it got canceled today. Ooh. And I was like, oh, cool. So I had like these thoughts go through my head. I was like, okay, should I just leave and go home? Like, this is so unfair. I can't believe this. And then I was like, you know what? If I go home, I'm not going to do anything. You know?
You're already there.
Yeah. And in my head, I was like, oh, I'll just do a video. I'll do yoga later, like at 11, you know? And the crazy thing was, I was like, I could have totally slept in today. So I was already there.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the car. I'm going to get my pods. I'm going to come back and I'm going to do my video here because I'm already here. I'm going to get it knocked out. And so I did. I was in there with my video. And I just did yoga with my pods and my video, and it was quite funny.
Way to go.
But yeah, and so, you know, that was definitely one of those moments that would have been easy to just be like, whatever, you know. And I didn't bring sneakers, so I couldn't work out because I was planning for yoga. I just came in my little chanclas, you know. But anyways, so what are some practical things that, I know I have some things that I'm working on, but what are some practical things that maybe you could share with us that either you do or you're trying new, you know, to work towards those resolutions, to keep those personal goals? What are some ideas that you have for us today?
Well, I think you kind of touched on one that was key when you said like that you set your stuff out ahead of time.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think one of the big things that's helped is just reducing the friction between where you are and what your goal is. So if it's working out, if you set your clothes out the night before, or I know in some cases when I've had to wake up super early, sometimes I'll sleep in my running shorts. So literally I like wake up and I'm literally ready because you're just removing all the barriers beforehand. And like your mind is always looking for reasons not to do it or how to be more comfortable.
Yeah.
And if you just give it like one less thing to think about, a lot of times that gives it a little bit of an easier transition on the day-to-day. And then like the second thing,
so what was that first one? Reduce the friction
between like whatever you're trying to do. So if it's like work out, set your clothes out. If it's eat healthy, like literally don't buy unhealthy snacks. Like because
that's, you know, like, it's so funny, but it's so true, right?
Because you want to reduce the battle that you have with your willpower, because a lot of times when you're trying something new, your willpower is not there. And oftentimes, even if it is, consistently, it's not enough to just have willpower, because there'll be the days where you don't feel like it, or you'll just be like, oh, I wanted that whole bag of Cheetos. So if that's an issue, or if you want to make it easier, literally only have healthy snacks in your house. And that way, like, that whole battle is non-existent, because you don't have to say, oh, do I pick the Cheetos or do I pick the nuts or whatever,
or the carrots, Cheeto carrots, same color, totally different taste.
So when you take some of those things out of the equation, it becomes less of a battle. And I know, like, for me, I've been trying to eat healthier and eat more vegetables, and literally I went to HEB and I bought myself like a bunch of easy to make stuff to make salads, to make you know, poke bowls, just like stuff that, because one of the friction for me is like I don't have 30 minutes to make something for lunch. And if I do and I get caught up at work or I'm behind, the last thing I want to do is like stop for 30 minutes to make something and then eat. So I needed something easy. Easy to put together, but still healthy. And so I got that stuff ahead of time. So it was really easy to just put together some turkey. I don't have to cook anything, but it's still way better than some pizza pockets or like a corn dog that you just
a children's lunch
throw in the microwave, you know, or going out to eat and getting a burger or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I think you bring a really good point. And that was kind of one of my things too. Well, my first one is to pray, you know, and I kind of talked about that in our last episode, because I do think it's really, really important to set yourself up to be successful with what you're planning with your life, is to stop and pray. and to have God be involved in what you're doing, where you're going. And for me, the biggest thing is why, the why. Because if I have that deep why that I have answered in myself, and for me, I get that, between me and God also. I mean, not for everything. Some things it's just super like, duh, I need to be healthy. I don't need to pray and ask God if he wants me to be healthy. You know what I mean? Like the answer will be yes, God's not going to be like, you're the chosen one to be unhealthy for life. Right. But so for me, it's praying. But then the second one is to prepare. And it's kind of like the same thing.
Yeah.
My 3 ones are 3 P's, so you can remember them super easy. The PPP. Isn't that something important? Like
no, that was like the loan for businesses during COVID. Important.
I knew it from somewhere. PPP. Pastor Karen, mom's always was talking to me about that, and I was always like, yeah, okay, so okay. Anyways, so mine's pray and then prepare, and I think what you're saying is really, really good, because the more you prepare for yourself, it's the more you really are setting yourself up to be successful, and like for me, one of the goals that I've been talking about being healthier with working out and being more consistent. I knew myself that I had to sit down and like write on my little monthly calendar like what I'm gonna do each day. Like, okay, arms, legs, Zumba, yoga, free day, whatever. Yeah. Because if not, for me, and my personality needs that detail. If it's just like, oh, do something, I might be like, but what do I do? And I might wake up and just be like, I don't know what to do. So I might just do nothing, which makes no sense, but whatever. But I think preparing.
Well, I think that's a really good point, and that was going to be my next one, is like develop a routine, because then you set out your intentions ahead of time. Like you said, on Monday I'm going to do yoga or whatever, and then Tuesday, and the same thing with a gym routine, or even some people plan out their meals, and it just gives you that stability where you've already thought about it and set your intention for it. So it takes a little, it's one less decision you have to make. Like sometimes you're like, oh man, I don't feel like it at the gym today, I don't know what I'd do, maybe I'll do a couple things and leave. But when you say like, okay, Monday is chest day, Tuesday is biceps, triceps, and like it's already set.
You have your plan.
You have your plan, you have your routine, and then once you stack a couple weeks together, you get that momentum and it just becomes like your thing.
That's good, yeah.
And so I would say definitely routine is a big one. The more you can replicate it, the more your body gets used to it. I've noticed like with waking up earlier, the more days in a row that I do it, even if I don't set an alarm, like your body's like, it's 5:30.
Yeah, you get
Are we ready to
like
go?
A system. Yeah, you get into a system that becomes like your, like your, what do they call it? Your second nature. Like you begin to do it. And really what we're talking about is that it goes from like this thing you're doing to a way you're living.
Yeah. That's the key.
I think honestly, if you think about like New Year's resolutions and goals and all of that, like that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to like either pivot or adjust or change or modify the way we're living for a reason, because either we're not happy with the current results or we want to grow and we want to go to the next level, whatever the reason is. And so I think that's really important that's why it's so important to stay consistent, so that it can actually become a good lifestyle, know? And now I also want to touch on like, how this applies to other types of goals, like financial goals. When you think about your finances, especially for the year and you're planning and you're preparing, I mean, obviously there's always surprises along the way, just like with anything, but these concepts apply to the same types of goals no matter what they are. Like if you think, where do I want my finances to be? What do I want my finances to look like this year? What are the truths and the principles that I know? And then you work backwards and you have to make a plan. Even if it's like for us, like tithing is a really big thing, because we've seen God be faithful with that, and we know that it's true, right? And so we have a plan set in place to make sure that our tithe and our offering comes out every single week, because I get paid weekly, or every 2 weeks. Like we have a plan set in place. We're not just like Well, hopefully it happens. Because we're planning and preparing for that. If you want to save so much because you're trying to buy a car cash or get a house or whatever, you have to make a plan for that. It's not just going to happen because you want it to happen.
Right.
Nothing happens because you just want it to happen.
And I think like you asked at the beginning, like, how do you make these things stick?
Yeah.
And so obviously when you first set out or you first have that initial goal, you have that initial motivation, right? Or that inspiration. You saw something, or you thought to yourself, I want to be healthier, or I want to have a plan with our finances, or I want to, start tithing and, walk in this principle. And that's like great for the initial push, right? But then there comes a time where something will be difficult, whether if it's like just now, we had to buy 2 new car batteries, right? That's unexpected, difficult in the financial realm.
Yeah.
Or like when you get sick and you're like, I said I was going to work out, but I don't really feel like it because I'm sick.
Right.
Or, whatever. When I had food poisoning, that was the last thing I wanted to do was go outside.
Yeah.
So after that initial excitement or that initial inspiration, there's a point where commitment has to take over.
Yeah, that's good.
And your commitment does not depend on how you feel. It does not depend on exterior circumstances. Your commitment is your word to yourself. And that has to be strong enough to weather those storms. And just for example, with us, with our tithe, now it's automatic, right? No matter what.
Right.
But it wasn't always that way. And we had to set that commitment to say, no matter what happens, like I remember when I got laid off and we only had your income.
Yeah.
And it would have been real easy to be like, all right, let's take a break because we're in a tough situation, unprecedented. We need to save. We need to make sure we can pay the mortgage, pay the cars. But once we had made that commitment, that's when it really shows whether you truly believe it or whether it was just a thing you did when it was comfortable.
Because it was easy.
Because it was easy or available.
Right, yeah.
But then once you have that commitment with yourself, that is what can weather those storms.
Yeah, that's really
because
good.
It's like no matter what, we're gonna do this.
Yeah, and that was the next thing that I wanted to bring up. So I think it's cool that you already went there. Was like what do we do? What can we do when it gets hard, or you do feel discouraged, or or things aren't going the way that you planned them to go, because if you pray and then you make your plan, or you prepare, it's not always this cookie cutter perfect scenario,
right.
And I think you kind of touched on, that commitment to yourself and, accountability to yourself and also God or anybody else that you've shared that with, it helps. Also for the sake of encouragement, like if you've set a goal and you've set something for your year or the next 6 months or however you're processing your goals, it is good to share that with others so that they can encourage you, not like pull you down when you're not doing it. Like the other day, Serge, it was like the afternoon time, and I think he had seen I hadn't done my 30 minutes, and he said, I forgot what you said, but it made me laugh inside. You were like, oh, you're gonna go on a brisk walk for 30 minutes or something like that. You said something like that, and I was like, oh, that's right, I need to do my 30 minutes, and then I was like, no, I'm gonna this and that. I forgot what I did, but and so it's like telling others to help you push through those times where it's not easy or not convenient or whatever, I think that's a big thing. For me, my last one, and it kind of goes all in with what we're saying, is to prioritize. Yeah. And I think that, like I said at the beginning, if you're setting goals or you're setting New Year's resolutions, you've chosen those things for a very personal reason.
Right.
It's not because someone's making you do that.
Right.
Like someone didn't sit you down and say, these should be your goals. Do this, this, and this. You set them down and you make them based on where you want to be.
Right.
Is usually where it comes from.
Yeah.
And so if it's important to you, then it's also wise to prioritize. Of
course.
And so there might be times to reach these goals that you'll have to say, no to this and yes to this.
That's huge.
You know, and I think it's huge with health, with fitness, with family, with relationships, with finances, with stuff with your kids, you know, with stuff for your family.
Yeah, of course.
You know, I mean, there's times that to be intentional with my kids, with our kids, they're our kids. You know, I have to say no to something that involves, you know, keeping the house super clean, so that I can say yes to spending quality time, because it's priorities. And when priorities aren't set in place, then it's almost like whatever seems more intense will just
100%.
grab you.
Whatever's screaming the loudest will take your attention, and
then you feel like you're all over the place.
You're all over the place. Yeah. And I think that is huge priorities. And there's a professor from NYU who said the concept of balance is a recipe for mediocrity, right? Because on the surface, it sounds like, balance is great, right? But anything exceptional has to be unbalanced towards that direction. So if you want a great relationship with your kids, your time is unbalanced, meaning the time with them is weighted heavier. You spend more time with them than you do watching Netflix, right? If your health is your priority, then the balance tilts towards health. You spend your time eating well, exercising, versus laying down, eating bad food. And it's not balanced. You can't say, like, on Monday I eat whatever I want, and on Tuesday I eat a salad. Then on Wednesday I eat bad again. Like, that balance will not get you healthy, right?
Sure.
And so there's seasons where you have to prioritize something and say no to a lot of things to do what you want to do. Like, I remember when I was doing school, my master's degree, my time was completely unbalanced to finishing that. Like, I would come home from a full day of work. Actually, I wouldn't come home. I'd go straight to school for 3 hours and come home at 9 and then study for 2 hours. So, like, my time was completely unbalanced to accomplish that, though, right? And so, but that was a season. It's not your entire existence.
Sure, yeah.
But whatever you're prioritizing, you have to give it its weight in order to fully let that flourish.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and it has to have its proper place, you know, so that what you're trying to set out to achieve, you can actually achieve.
Right.
And I think we're saying the same thing, but just in a little different way. And, you know, because I'm really big on balance. And so that little quote that you shared, like, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. Like, my brain's recalculating some things. But I get what you're saying. And I do agree with that concept of, like, you know, because of priorities, there's going to be, you know, I can't say, well, I spend 2 hours with my kids, so now I'm going to watch 2 hours of TV.
Right.
You know, and because that's balance, you know, and it's no, the time with the kids should probably outweigh the time I spend watching TV, because you're saying what's most important needs the most attention.
Yeah, and it's kind of like whatever you water is what grows. And so like, you know, even if you have a certain level of talent or a gift, like you take Kobe Bryant, for example, he was already innately talented, but he was so unbalanced in his commitment to basketball that he's literally one of the top 3 players in the history of the game. And he had a great quote, because he was always accused of not passing to his teammates. And he would say, I show up at the gym 2 hours before practice, then I do practice, then I stay 2 hours after, and then I come back at night. And then I see guys that show up 5 minutes before practice and they leave right after. Why am I going to pass them the ball when they're not putting in the work to be better? They're not putting in what they could, right? And so, like, you have a natural talent, but you still have to cultivate it. And if you have that dedication, it'll multiply that talent like 100-fold versus you just leaning on that talent or leaning on that gift and being decent or even being above average, but not really reaching your full potential.
Right, sure. Yeah. That's good. So, all right, so to wrap it up, I think, you know, we shared a lot of great things here today. I think, what was that first thing you said? You said reduce the friction.
Yeah.
I think that was so good. Reduce the friction between where you're at and what you're trying to reach. Right? Which also I think includes, you know, preparing, prioritizing, and, you know, also a big one is to pray. You know, let God be a part of your processing, of what you're doing, because then you don't feel alone too in what you're trying to achieve. And no matter how big or how small what's in front of you is, God wants to be a part of it.
Sure.
You know, he wants to be a part
of it. And then make it a repeatable routine. If it's like something that wipes you out on Monday and then you can't do anything the rest of the week, that's not repeatable. But if it's something that you can, you know, systematically do over and over again, then it becomes something you can turn into a lifestyle.
It's a habit, and which becomes a lifestyle. So, hey guys, that is all we have for you guys on these episodes, this little special on New Year's resolutions, which it's January. You guys still, you can set goals anytime.
It's not too late.
It is never too late. I mean, I wouldn't wait till December to set your goals for 2022. That's the real procrastinator right there, right? But that's none of us. So, Serge, thank you for joining us.
And thanks for having me. It was fun.
Episodes. Yes, it was very fun. I very much enjoyed it, and hopefully we can have you back again on another topic. But so we'll be back next week, same time, same place, dropping truth and bringing life. Dad John will be back next week to be with us. So we can't wait to see you guys next week. Have an awesome week and share this with somebody. And we'll see you next time.
See ya. Have a great year.